Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to Corpus Cast with me, Dr. Robbie Love. This is the podcast from Aston University, all about corpus linguistics and what it can do for society. Welcome once again. Today, we're taking another methodological dive into a corpus tool, following previous episodes with guests Milos Jakubicek discussing Sketch Engine and Lawrence Anthony discussing AntConc. And this time, it's the turn of a relatively younger tool, Lancsbox, Lancaster University Corpus Toolbox. And who better to talk about this tool than its developer, Vaclav Brezina, professor in corpus linguistics at Lancaster University, where he's a member of the ESRC Centre for Corpus Approaches to Social Science, CAS, and also director of studies of Lancaster's MA in corpus linguistics. Vaclav's main research interests are corpus linguistics, of course, statistics, and the application of corpus methods in the study of speech and writing, learner language, collocations, phraseology, and vocabulary. Vaclav has published widely. His books include Statistics in Corpus Linguistics, a Practical Guide, which I'd certainly highly recommend for those, especially those new to studying language quantitatively and with statistical approaches. It's certainly been very helpful for my own work. And also Fundamental Principles of Corpus Linguistics, co-authored with another previous Corpus Cast guest, Tony McHenry. Among other projects, he's worked on the design and construction of a number of corpora, including the British National Corpus 2014, the Trinity Lancaster Corpus, and, of course, the currently in development, LANA, Lancaster, Northern Arizona Corpus of American English. And he's also a corpus tool developer with examples including BNC Lab and the topic of our conversation today, which is, of course, Lancsbox. So we're going to hear all about Lancsbox, the story of Lancsbox, how it was developed, why it was developed, and what people have been doing with it and what's to come in the future. So I'm very excited to learn more about this tool from Vaclav Brezina, the developer of Lancsbox. Vaclav, welcome to Corpus Cast. Hello.
Hello, Robbie. It's great to be here, and thank you so much for the very kind introduction.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Corpus Cast. It's great to have the chance to chat with you about your work and specifically about Lancsbox. And it's great to catch up because we have a bit of a history ourselves connected to Lancaster. In fact, we shared an office for about 2 years when I was starting my PhD there, and you had just joined Lancaster, I believe, as a senior research associate more than 10 years ago now. So it's great to catch up with my old office mate, so to speak, and chat with you. So I will start by asking you the question, of course, that I ask everybody, and then I'll hear more about your background and your career. But to start with, what does corpus linguistics mean to you?
For me, corpus linguistics is an extremely exciting way of discovering different aspects of language and society through looking at how language is used in different contexts. And we have to remember that language is essential for human beings as social creatures. So we need food, water, air, and language to survive. So by analyzing patterns of language we use, employing computational technology, because we want to do this on a large scale, we can really get exciting insights into how people use language, people's hopes, people's fears, people's preferences, opinions, behaviors, and also into how language develops over time. So it is a great package. Corpus linguistics offers all of this. So it is an exciting journey you can embark on when you start doing the corpus linguistic research. So I think this is the sort of excitement that really fascinates me about corpus linguistics.
And I love the way that you talk about it. And of course, this is our August episode, but we're recording this in June, and you're preparing to be teaching on the Lancaster Summer Schools in Corpus Linguistics and introducing 100 more people to this journey into language. So it's a wonderful time to reflect on this sort of thing. as I mentioned at the beginning, you're a professor in corpus linguistics at Lancaster University, but clearly you weren't born a professor in corpus linguistics at Lancaster University. So tell me a bit about how you got to this point, your own education, where you studied, and the steps you've taken to get to the position you're in today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you sort of already highlighted sort of a bit of the journey when we shared the office together back in 2013, which was a wonderful, wonderful time. And sort of I have really fond memories of that. But I studied English, linguistics and philosophy in Prague as a double master's program when I actually came across corpus linguistics, really by chance, just reading a paper. And there was an opportunity to develop further skills. That was around the year 2000. And it came to me as a bit of a revelation, really, when I discovered what you can do with corpus linguistics. I still sort of remember the first word list I produced and the first concordance line. And, it was some sort of newspaper articles I downloaded from the internet, really not that consequential. But it felt I had just acquired a superpower at that moment. Where you sort of realize the potential of the computational analysis of language. And these were sort of small data sets I sort of started analyzing. And then I went on to do my PhD at the University of Auckland in New Zealand, and then returned to Europe via Amsterdam. And obviously the opportunity opened up at Lancaster University, which, as you know, is the hub for corpus linguistics, really one of the places where corpus linguistics was born. And there was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be part of the research team at the SRC Centre for Corpus Approaches to Social Science that pioneered many of the ways and many of the approaches that take corpus linguistics as a linguistic subject and linguistic discipline and open up the possibilities for so many people outside of linguistics, social scientists, to be able to actually explore their data set using the wonderful technology that we have. So, I've been in Lancaster since then, 11 years now. So this is a wonderful, wonderful experience. And, one of the things I tell my students when they start their studies here at Lancaster, one thing I can guarantee is that you will never get bored at Lancaster, because there are so many things happening at the same time and you can participate in so many different ways. So this has certainly been true for me, and I think the sort of excitement is still there. And this is one of the sort of passions that you and I share, the passion for discovering new things using corpus linguistics tools.
And you've obviously been incredibly busy in the 11 years that you've been at Lancaster, and we're only going to talk about one of the numerous things that you've been doing, but it's I think a very interesting one, of course, the development of Languesbox, which is now among one of the sort of widely used concordancing tools. That is freely available to researchers who are interested in discovering things about language using the technologies that you mentioned. So let's try to go back to the beginning here. The initial idea behind Languesbox. What is Languesbox to begin with, and what motivated you to say, I think we need to make a new tool? Was there a gap that you'd noticed that you thought that you could fill by creating a new corpus tool?
Absolutely. It all started back in 2015, and it started with an idea. As you said, you have to have an idea or vision to do something that is not available at that moment. And at that time, we were exploring the idea of visualizing the collocation network, so the connections between words in language. And Languesbox is a sort of a fully fledged tool now, but it all started as a very small single-purpose tool for the analysis of collocations and collocations networks, and most importantly, for visualizing the links between words in language, something that was not available in any other tool at that moment. So we really wanted to know, we wanted to see what the connections between words and phrases are in language, to be able to really analyze discourses beyond what was currently available. So it started with this curiosity, initial curiosity. What does it look like, really, And can we do that? And the answer was yes. We analyzed the data that we had, and I remember again the sort of first image that came up on my screen, which was really, really exciting just to see how the words connect beyond the initial collocation networks and how they develop and how they increase as you click on various other words. So it sort of started with this, and over the years, and it's been almost 10 years now. We've added many more features, and Linguistics is now a sort of a fully developed standalone tool, as you said, sort of a box where you can have different tools to analyze and visualize language. So it is an extremely powerful corpus linguistics tool that can do all the features that you would expect from such a tool, plus many other things that we might talk about as well.
Yeah, so you're right. It's certainly developed over time, and new features have appeared. And beyond as you said, the standard functions that people would expect, there are some other what I think are still unique features. For instance, the wizard tool, which when that emerged, I thought, what on earth is a wizard? In the context of a corpus, corpus linguistics. Can you tell us a bit more about this and any of the other kind of unique features that have developed over the years since it was first launched?
Yeah, I think what we are really interested in is pushing the boundaries a bit and see whether we can provide the functionality that is not available elsewhere. You mentioned the wizard tool, and this is a great example of how corpus linguistics tool can support researchers throughout the process. And the wizard tool is a tool that combines all the other tools that are available in Linguistics through a very simple interface. You choose which words or phrases you want to search for, or grammatical features if you like, because you can tag the corpora and also search for patterns such as the passive constructions or split infinitives, or any of those. And then you decide what type of analysis you would like. So would you like a visual collocational analysis? Would you like to add some concordance lines, maybe word lists or keywords, all the things from the mix. And then you basically select your data, the corpora that you like, corpora that either we provide, such as the British National Corpus 2014, or your own data that you would like to explore in various other ways. And then you click the button. And what's exciting is that the tool then runs all the searches on your behalf and then produces a research report together, with all the data sets that are downloaded to your computer. And this is an editable research report in Microsoft Word. So you open it. It starts with an introduction. Then there's a method section that has data and procedure that all automatically reflects what has been done in the background. It sort of writes the paragraphs for you. So this is so pre-AI, large language models that take on what we can actually do and how much we can automate in corpus linguistics. And obviously, then you have the results section that produces all the tables that are fully labeled and described. You have your images there, again, described in words, in prose. So this is automatically generated based on the type of data that you've selected initially. And then obviously it's up to you to interpret the data. So we are not pretending that the tool can do that linguistic interpretation for you. But you have a very good starting point. So in 5 minutes, you can get all these ready for you so that you can then focus and really provide that insight, the linguistic analysis that is so important for that. Some people like it. Some people think, we are going too far. But, when you start with a sort of a new idea, you always have, users that find this helpful and users who prefer the sort of traditional way of doing research. But that's absolutely all right. We like to experiment with ideas and see how far we can go when introducing new functionalities into Linguistics.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and if there are users who don't find it helpful, then they simply don't have to use that part of the tool, and no harm done. It's interesting you mentioned generative AI, because it does now seem that this sort of thing is so much more common. Of course, getting a tool to do some writing for us or to edit our writing. Have you ever read a paper and sort of go, oh, I think they used the wizard. I recognize that sentence, or I recognize that discussion of stats or something.
Yeah, I've seen that in unpublished work, mainly sort of student work, and obviously that would be sort of a shortcut for many of these. And I'm, very much open to that idea, because what I'm really interested in is the interpretation and the contextualization. So if the tool, and I think we will have to get used to that as a field, and maybe as academics in general, as you sort of mentioned with the sort of new generative AI tools, where we place the emphasis or focus of the linguistic and social science work. And I truly believe that if the tool can organize the data for you in a helpful way, then you truly have more time to focus on that. And obviously, people can use that time in, various other, various ways. They can waste the time and just sort of submit just the, bare analysis, but they can also use it more wisely and perhaps provide insights that the tool will never be able to provide. So I truly, believe in the human analyst, in the person who is trained to read the concordance lines, who is trained to understand the social context, to really provide that type of analysis. And I think the major difference between this approach, the wizard approach, and the generative AI tools is that the wizard is really transparent and predictable in what it does. It's not a black box. Select the types of analysis you want, and it organizes them in an expected way in a form of a research paper. Something that we've been trained to do. It can do that very efficiently. It can do that very quickly because it's a computational tool after all. But you are not asking an open question, write a paper for me.
Yes,
because that's never the goal. And I don't think this will be a helpful way of moving forward, even, when we have the power of large language models. I think we'll have to find the middle ground between these two extremes.
You mentioned that the tool also includes some preloaded corpus data that users can either analyze directly or perhaps use as a reference corpus in comparison to their own data. So give us a bit of a walkthrough of somebody using the tool for the first time. They've got some data of their own that they want to analyze using the tool. What are the sorts of functionalities in terms of processing the data to get it ready to be used? What kind of things will Linguistics do with your data as you're uploading it and preparing to conduct your analysis?
Yeah, as of today, and the version of Linguistics I will be talking about mainly because that's the most recent version, is version 4 of Linguistics X, because that's the future of Linguistics currently, the latest iteration of the tool that we are going to support in the future, and that currently has all the functionalities that we talked about. So it starts with you loading your own data, if you like, or scraping data from the web. So you might have an idea. I would like to write something about, and you have a topic, global warming or, climate change, different topics you might have in mind, and different sources of the data. It can be newspapers, it can be the Wikipedia articles, anything that you might like to find on the web. So there's a very powerful web scraper that you can also use to get your data in a matter of seconds. So you can build a corpus, 100,000 words in a matter of really 30 seconds and sort of get it processed. So whatever the sources of the data, you can sort of get it into Linguistics. It can be in any format. You might have your PDF files. If you are a teacher, for instance, you might have your student essays in various formats. They were submitted in the wrong format. So you might Word documents, you might have PDF files, or whatever file format you like. And the tool can process the data automatically, sort of convert it into the right type of format. The Linguistics X works natively with XML, so all the data will be automatically converted into XML and annotated accordingly. The latest annotation that is available automatically is the part of speech tagging, lemmatization. We also offer syntactic tagging, so you can have sort of syntactic trees if you like. And it also automatically includes semantic tagging, so the USAS type of tagging, where you basically provide a meaning category for each of the words. So is it a body part? Is it an action? Is it sort of human behavior, and so on and so forth. So there are sort of these categories. This all happens in the background, so you just wait for the data to be processed, and Linguistics does that fairly efficiently. And then you can start searching the data straight away. And there are different ways. The sort of best way, and I think that's the core functionality, I think, of any corpus tool, is the concordance line and the quick tool, the tool that produces concordance lines that allow us to see the use of words in the immediate context. And I think, this is what is really the core of corpus linguistics, and that gives us the insight into how language is used. Then you can go on and produce a word list, for instance, if you are interested in the words that are frequently used in your data, and you can produce a keyword list very easily when you compare it with a reference corpus that is provided, or you can provide your own reference corpus. Then you can visualize the connections as we talked about them using the collocation networks tool, which is the GraphCalc tool, graphical collocations tool, and see whether there are any patterns in how the discourse develops through the keywords that you might like to visualize in this way. And then you can go straight back to the texts and to the sources of the data, because there's a text tool that allows you to highlight all the frequencies of the words or phrases of interest in your individual text, see which texts include most of these words, go directly to those places, and really start understanding the use of language in this complex and comprehensive way.
It's clearly something that has developed rapidly over almost 10 years. And I was going to ask you about Linguistics X. I hadn't realized that this, from what you're saying, it sounds like this is kind of taking over as kind of the future version of Linguistics that will continue to be developed, which is wonderful news for people like me who have been hoping for tools that can handle XML more effectively as well. So that's great to hear. It seems that this kind of brings together a lot of your interests. I mentioned earlier, clearly you have an awful lot of interest in statistics and corpus linguistics, but also the theoretical principles that underpin what we're doing when we're doing corpus research. What are the assumptions that we're making, and what are the potential pitfalls as well when we're thinking about designing and analyzing corpora. It seems that all of these kind of ideas are all coming together into the development of the tool. Is that also being influenced by feedback from users as well? What are the sorts of things that users have told you they're doing with the tool, but also what are the sorts of things that you've kind of developed over the years in response to what users have told you they would like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it started, as we talked about it, as the ideal tool we would like to use in our own research. And as you say, Linguistics comes from the ESRC Center for Corpus Approaches to Social Science, and there are so many different projects happening here at the same time, and they all have specific needs, and these have been incorporated into Linguistics as an in-house tool. But we also thought it would be a good idea to offer this tool for free to other researchers who might be dealing with similar issues as we are, because we are extremely proud of what we do here. But the question is, would it be helpful to others as well? And that's always a sort of open question. And we were so much encouraged to see the positive response that we've had from the research community. I've just had an email from a a PhD student from the University of Birmingham who just finished her PhD, and she just sent me a snapshot from her acknowledgements in her PhD thesis that mentions Linguistics as a sort of instrumental tool that actually allowed her to do her PhD research. And there are many people that use that in MA PhD research, but also in published research over the years. So Linguistics has many citations when you look at Google Scholar, for instance, and you can see the wonderful research that was supported by this tool. We also provide support to users. So we have a help hub on our new website where people can just drop us a line if they would like to add a feature, or if they struggle with using their own data in the tool, and we respond to that. And this sort of creates a wonderful conversation, and you get an immediate sense on what is happening. So when we release a new version, and we've just released a new version of Linguistics X version 4, you get this sort of immediate feedback, and this is the sort of feedback loop that we use. And there are some wonderful ideas for new features, and obviously we have to see how to prioritize the various things on the wish list, and the wish list is a very, very long one. But I think user feedback has been really important, really instrumental in developing the tool into a fully fledged tool that started as a single idea, as a tool that dealt with a specific problem in corpus linguistics, but now can be used in all sorts of contexts, in teaching contexts, but also in research contexts as well. And we are really excited to hear from our users and to be able to help them if they have any queries.
It's wonderful that you're getting such direct feedback from users, and informing the future of the tool essentially. I'm thinking out loud here really, but I've had a few conversations on this podcast, but also otherwise when I've caught up with colleagues at conferences recently and that sort of thing, around how the idea of a tool developer as somehow taking on a position of responsibility for users in the field, not necessarily a position that they appoint themselves, but rather is kind of by convention in a way appointed to them. Do you feel do you feel that responsibility? Do you feel the pressure of expectation that users may start to behave almost like consumers and kind of expect that at the drop of a hat you can fix an issue or add in a new feature, or do you still just feel like, as it was at the beginning, I need a tool that can help me and my immediate colleagues do what we're doing better, and we'll share it with people if they want to use it, but that's up to them and what they do with it. Now it feels different. It feels like this is now a service that you're providing. At least that's what it looks like from the outside. Is that how it feels in your shoes as well?
Yes and no. And obviously, there are expectations, and, we want to be as helpful as we can, given our resources. One of the model that we use here, because this is a publicly funded research, the SRC funded research, is that we are operating on this sort of moral economy. The tool is for free. People can download it and use it, and we try to update it as frequently as we can, responding to any feedback that we have. But so Linguistics offers many different entry points into corpus linguistics, into the data. If you are new to corpus linguistics, you can download it and start using it straight from the box, because there will be data already provided for you. Actually, the whole British National Corpus 2014 is available for download for free. If you are an advanced corpus user who already has a specific need, you can also probably find ways in which Linguistics can be helpful in your research. At the same time, it is a tool, one of many. So it's a means to an end. So if you can't find ways in which Linguistics can be helpful, then perhaps there are other tools as well. But what we believe in is flexibility, the ability for the users, for instance, to define their own statistical measures. The Langsbox X, one of the great features is the implementation of the R language. There's an R engine, so you can have an R script that you can feed into Langsbox, and it will produce the results based on your commands. So there's a lot of flexibility in this regard.
You mentioned there, of course, there are a wide range of corpus tools now, and sometimes some of the guests I've had in the past have expressed occasional sense of feeling a bit overwhelmed when new tools appear and not really knowing where to turn or what, where to begin even with how do you even decide which is the right tool for you necessarily, particularly when there are perhaps issues of interoperability between them. I can upload a corpus to 5 different tools and get 5 different token counts, for instance, which can sometimes make it difficult to switch between tools within one particular project. But how do you sort of see the landscape? It sounds from what you're saying that it's not, you please use my tool and my tool only and don't use anyone else's, but rather more of a kind of community in a way where, we're offering this, and if it's helpful to you, great. If it's not, that's also fine. But it's not necessarily a competition, right? Is that kind of how it is?
Absolutely. I see, because the corpus linguistic community or family is fairly small. This is growing, and I think wonderful to see that many more people, young researchers, early career researchers, are interested in corpus linguistics. And this is one of the missions of the ESRC Center for Corpus Approaches to Social Science, to spread the word about corpus linguistics. So this is wonderful. And if we can make a contribution also in terms of the instrument, the tool that the community might like to use, I think this is a wonderful bonus that we can offer. But obviously, people have different needs, different expectations, different research questions that need to be addressed in a particular way. So I've been always so very pragmatic about this. So the best tool that fits your research question, that answers the questions that you have in your research, I think is probably the best solution for you. We really believe in Langsbox. We think that Langsbox currently can produce all the analysis, is transparent in terms of the token counts, and it produces the token counts in terms of the what we call space tokens, the tokens separated by space, but also grammatical tokens, the tokens being identified by a grammatical tokenizer. These are details, but Langsbox will tell you both of these counts, so that you always know what you are comparing. So you can compare like with like if you go to another tool, if that tool produces that type of information for you. But I think I would encourage people to experiment with different tools. There's a bit of a sort of a small c conservatism in the corpus linguistics community, and that's very much understandable. If you started with a tool, your tutor introduced you to a particular tool, you might be reluctant to experiment with another tool because you know where to go, where to click, go through these menus, and you get all types of analysis. But I think, for me, the exciting thing about corpus linguistics is that you have the choice. And if you are open-minded, you are able to maybe find out that, there are different types of looking at the same type of data. That might be helpful and revealing. And this is, I think, what motivates me when we think about the development of Langsbox in particular. Being able to discover something new. We, as the sort of latest iteration of the tool, we added a support for multi-word expressions, n-grams and skip-grams that you can compute on the fly. This is computationally probably the most difficult thing to do. When you analyze a very large corpus, such as the BNC 2014, 100 million words, or even larger corpora, we can deal with billions of words. Currently, we are processing the Hansard corpus, which is 2 billion, and not 2 million, 2 billion words of British parliamentary speeches over the past 200 years. So this is a huge amount of data that you can now process using Langsbox. And if that's helpful to your research question, you are really welcome to use that. If not, we are very happy for you to use another tool that suits your research needs.
I'm glad you mentioned actually the role that, your initial introduction into corpus linguistics has, and which tools that your lecturer, your tutor introduces you to if you are, say, for instance, doing a degree in linguistics or language, and you're taking a module on corpus linguistics, having never done it before. And day one, here's a tool and have a play. And you're right. I think that has a great influence, on the tools that you gravitate towards later. At what level would you pitch Langsbox? Would you say it's suitable as a tool for somebody who's completely new as a beginner, or would you say it's perhaps more suited for slightly more advanced users who already have some experience? Where would you say it kind of fits in that pipeline, or is it suitable for essentially everybody, regardless of their experience level?
I think it's an incredibly flexible tool. So we've introduced the tool to English A-level secondary school students, and they had a great fun with Langsbox, because the great thing is that you can start playing with the tool straight away. So they went to the BNC 2014, the spoken part, Robbie in particular, that you helped compile, and started searching for swear words immediately. So this was the sort of a great thing to see students responding to that. Complete beginners without any background in linguistics or computation at all. On the other hand, you can get very advanced users who have very specific needs for specific statistical analyses. And as I said, Langsbox integrates all of these. So if you are a beginner, you will probably ignore all these details, and you will focus on the visualizations, you will focus on concordance lines to start with, and gradually develop the knowledge and skills to go beyond that if you wish. But if you are an advanced user, you can plug in your own R script, if you like, and see what happens. If you have a brilliant idea for a new collocation measure and you would like to test it straight away, well, it's very easy to do with Langsbox, because Langsbox will do all the calculations on your behalf, and you can experiment with different parameters. So, there are different entry points. The great thing about Langsbox is that it has a very simple user interface, very simple UI. And I would also recommend people who are familiar with the older version of Langsbox to check out the Langsbox X UI, because we are extremely proud of that. I think this is the UI for the future. Very flexible. You can have as many windows open as you like. You can drag them around. You can maximize them, minimize them, reshape them, have multiple different types of analysis, all visible on your screen. And you can search in all the windows at once. So you can do, all sorts of things that were previously not available, and that I believe are not available in any other tool.
You mentioned the UI of the future, so I want to ask you about the future. I appreciate you may not be able to share specific details of things that may be coming up in the next version, but if that's the case, and perhaps at least in general, where do you see things heading with the next generation of corpus tools? You've mentioned AI, of course, and the role of large language models that we're starting to see appear in some ways in some of the corpus tools, but in the future, what do you think will be the kind of biggest differences between how we work now and how we will be working in the future with corpus tools?
Yeah, I think there will be much higher expectations from the general users. And you mentioned the generative AI, and they've been now implemented in our working processes. The Copilot by Microsoft integrated into Microsoft Word and the Office package. So people will be able to interact with these tools very, very much. And I think the usability aspect, will be very, very important for corpus tools as well. I think what is really important for me is not to lose sight of what is important, what's the core message and what's the core feature of corpus linguistics. And for me, this is the use of words in context. And this is how we define meanings of words in this sort of functional approach, to be able to understand how people use the words in different ways, in different contexts. And it goes back to the simple concordance line. The concordance line is a very old idea. It predates computational linguistics and corpus linguistics. It goes back to the Middle Ages, where people produced manual concordances for the Bible. And they were still very powerful to understand the meaning of words. So I think we shouldn't be overwhelmed by the development of the technology. And I think we as corpus linguists, as a community, as you talked about it, shouldn't lose track of our own identity, what we can offer, in addition to all the other competing ways of analyzing language. And I think we have lots to offer. We have the ability to understand the language use from its context. It's not a black box approach. It's a very structured way of dealing with data. And I think for me, the exciting opportunities there is at the interface of these different approaches. I think the next step for corpus linguistics for me would be to be able to integrate many different types of data, multimodal types of data, including images, videos, because this is how we perceive language in the wider context of its use with the visualization. And visualizations have always been at the center of Linguistics and what Linguistics offered on top of, the other functionalities and what Linguistics is famous for. So I think there would be a combination of the scale of the data, much larger data sets. We talked about billions of data. Maybe we need to think about even a sort of larger number than that. If you think about the sort of daily spoken production in English alone, there will be probably 1 trillion words of speech that is never transcribed, never recorded, but there will be much larger data sets that we will have to process in a meaningful way without losing the sight of what is important in corpus linguistics. So going back to the simple concordance.
I think, it seems to be a very exciting time, particularly with generative AI, perhaps exciting and also perhaps also scary, not knowing exactly how it's going to affect our daily lives, as you say, but specifically with corpus linguistics as well. You're right. I think that interpretation and the human must remain at the heart of understanding what we're doing with the data that we have. I think it sounds very exciting, though. And I as we wrap up, I want to ask. I'll have one quick question for you, but I have another quick question that I want to ask you now about the name Linguistics. That bit I get. Lancaster University Corpus Toolbox. Yeah. But what's the hashtag doing there?
Yeah, I think it just probably reflects the fact that we were in the age of Twitter X now, where we sort of started developing the tool. And when we decided that we are confident enough to share the news with the community, one of the channels that we use was X or Twitter at that time, and it came very natural to have the hashtag there. And we also wanted the hashtag to be part of that name as well. It also helps when you sort the tools alphabetically, because the Linguistics comes up on the top always when you have hashtag. So there it is. A practical reason to have that as part of the name as well.
Oh, thank you. I just I've always been curious, but that makes a lot of sense actually. Yes. Vaclav, thank you very much. We're gonna wrap things up now. I'm just gonna ask you one of the quick questions that I'd like to ask at the end, and I think it'll be nice to ask you your number one piece of advice for students who are just new, who are starting or embarking on corpus research. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think if I were to give piece of advice, I'm not sure people would be interested, but if they were, I would say try to develop appreciation for the data, and everything else, statistical techniques, all these sort of details, will come naturally. Sometimes people are overwhelmed with where to start, what to do. But I would say start looking at a concordance and start looking at the patterns that you can spot. It's a very simple process. It's a very exciting process as well. And I think everything else will follow.
Thank you. That's brilliant advice. And I absolutely agree that, curiosity, exploring, playing with the data is the best way to introduce people and allow their own discoveries to motivate them to want to do more. So thank you very much for that. I think it's brilliant advice. And with that, we will draw things to a close. So thank you so much, Vaclav. It's been wonderful to catch up with you and hear all about the exciting things that you're doing with Blank Spots and all of the developments that are going on at Lancaster in corpus linguistics more broadly. That is all for this episode of Corpus Cast. Thank you, our listeners, for joining us on your platform of choice, be that YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts. In the meantime, do let us know your thoughts using the hashtag CorpusCast, and make sure to check out the Aston Corpus Linguistics Research Group on X. Still feels weird to say that. Rather on Twitter, at Aston Corpus, and you can follow me at Lovermob. CorpusCast is an Aston Originals podcast hosted by me, Robbie Love, and produced by Sam Cook. Thank you again, our listeners. We'll see you next time. And thank you once again, Vaclav Brezina, for joining us on this episode of CorpusCast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Robbie.